You're listening to the Ask Drone U podcast. You ask, we answer your drone questions. Whether you're here to turn your passion into profit or you simply fly for fun, we're a community of learners and teachers who aspire to achieve greatness. We are
Drone U.
Hello, everyone, and thank you again for joining us for another episode of Ask Drone U. My name is Paul.
My name is Rob, and it's been a while, Paul.
It has been
nice to be back in the chair.
It has been a very long time.
Yep.
There's a reason for that, just so that everyone knows. My wife and I had a baby back in the end of May. You know,
May 18th, right?
May 17th, yeah.
Dang it. May 17th.
Do you remember when I told you that I had a dream that we were going to have a baby during the experience training? Do you remember that?
I think I ignored it because I didn't want it to be the case.
And that's exactly what ended up happening.
May 20th would have been better.
Okay.
So I will let little Grace know someday.
Yeah, please let her know. But yeah, that's why I've been out. I know there's been a lot of news going on in this last month, and we're going to be talking about it, just FYI. We're going to be talking about, not in this episode, we're recording a bunch today, so you'll get it, but we're going to be talking about the DJI ban. We're going to be talking about how myself, Kevin Finisterre, Andres, and a couple other people finally got DJI to admit that there was a legitimate security problem with Flight Sync and how that might impact the DJI ban. I think it might actually stop the DJI ban.
I want to tease that a little bit because there's a point that people have been making relative to that claim that you just made.
Mm-hmm.
That I think is critically important to the masses understanding the significance or lack thereof of what we're talking about. And that is, a lot of people have said that yes, that existed, but it was at the discretion or choice of the pilot of whether or not to turn that on or not.
And that's not true.
That is, so we're not going to get into it in this show, but I want all of you listeners to know, because I know there are people out there that are scoffing at the notion because of that very point. And so we have to hit that.
Yeah, and we will in that show when we get to it, because
so stay tuned.
It's amazing how many groups have been saying there's no security issue, people demanding proof, and then literally the proof comes out, and then literally DJI admits to it with
because
Flight
China's so reasonable. Like, what the blank?
Well, a lot of people are not familiar with what's going on a global scale, right? India banned DJI. Like, we're not the first country to do this.
Not that we want them banned.
I agree with that.
Let's make that very clear.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But you can't gaslight drone pilots and say there's no issue.
Apparently you can.
Why are we there shouldn't be a DJI ban. Look, the truth works. That is clear as glass. And you've been getting the truth here at Drone U for 12 years. And I'm so proud of that. And I'm so proud that after 7 years of people saying that I'm an asshole and I'm wrong and I'm egotistical, there was a little bit of truth to that. That I'm glad we've been vindicated, and I'm glad that DJI admitted to it, because I think it's actually a good positive step. And we're going to get all into that, so we're not going to go into it this show. This show, we're actually going to talk about another topic that I've been really kind of beating the drum for the last 5 years on, which is attitude mode, and how DJI doesn't have attitude mode in a lot of their new drones. And then if you get a drone with attitude mode on it, it doesn't have all the videography features that you would normally get with a standard consumer drone. By the way, when I used Kevin Finisterre's system to hack DJI, did you know that getting all the Cine features, all the upgraded video features, all the upgraded color outputs, all that, it's a 1 and a 0 in the parameters.
You just got to know where in the plethora of ones and zeros to go look.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
So literally all this stuff that DJI has been making hard on pilots could be fixed in like a keystroke, a literal keystroke. So I guess too, because you gotta hit one and then enter. You're right, Rob. You're right. I love it. I love it. No, I love it. It's great. Okay, let's hit this question, which is by the way, brought to you by two things. Number one is we have to say how much we love Johnny from Colorado Drone Chargers. He's been a sponsor of this show, back since the first fly-in, which is almost 7 years ago. And if you don't know Colorado Drone Chargers, I highly recommend that you check them out. It's the only solution that provides a pure sine wave methodology of charging 4 batteries all at once. We're talking 35 to 45 minutes to charge 4 batteries at once. If you're doing mapping, if you're doing cell tower inspections, if you're doing subject tracking, you've got to have one of these chargers. It just makes your life so much easier. We even have used one on the boat, believe it or not. Which brings me to our other sponsor. Before we get there, check out coloradodronechargers.com to pick one up. Some people have said they're pricey. They are, but if you're a serious drone pilot, it's really not a big deal. And frankly, it is completely worth it. We own, I think, 7 or 8 of them now, and we use them all the time for trainings. They're a true godsend. And Johnny, we appreciate your support, and we love what you do. If you are interested in the ultimate methodology of gaining confidence in flying your drone, then you've got to get to the ultimate environment for training. What am I talking about? I am talking about Northern Colorado. You could do this at a lot of places, but not like how we do it. You got to come to our subject tracking training. We offer them at the end of every single mapping class. We've got a bunch of them on our website right now. I personally think the price point is too cheap, so you better get it while it's cheap. And if you want to join us for a day out on the lake, you want to join us for the ultimate environment to learn how to master things like boat commercials, car commercials. You want to learn how to master tracking anything that's on the move and fly closer, fly lower, and get the shots that your competition simply cannot get. You've got to go to thedroneu.com, scroll down to events, and check out the subject tracking training. We start at the break of dawn out on Horsetooth Lake, and we actually go out there and we fly all day till typically till about 3 or 4 the storms come in, and soon we'll be offering a later training to cover sunset, but that's not available right now. But what I love about this environment is you don't have obstacles. Yes, you have the water, but that's not a big deal if you know what settings to turn off, so that way your drone doesn't automatically land in the water. I've seen that happen like 10 times. If you really want the ultimate drone training experience, you've got to check out the subject tracking training, and you can join us for other classes that same week if your heart desires, and you just want to have the most value possible. And if you're creating a drone business, you're going to want to be able to offer mapping. You're going to want to be able to offer subject tracking, and you're going to want to be able to have these systems to operate where other people can't. Because 1, you're going to have drone adventures, unlike the competition. And number 2, you're going to be able to charge what other people can't because they can't get the shots that you can. If you want that, thedroneu.com.
Hello guys, this is Jeff Fidelin, a professional drone pilot with a decade of experience dating back to the Phantom 1 in 2014. My experience mainly lies in DJI's smaller drones such as the Phantom series and the Mavic line. Currently, I'm using the Mavic 3 Pro Cine, and despite its excellent flying capabilities, I have encountered issues with manual flying control and precision. This model also lacks dual remote control functionality, which is crucial for cinematic purpose, and you understand. For instance, I had to cover the bottom sensors with tape to achieve maximum manual control while landing on a moving boat, even if obstacle sensors were off. It wasn't enough. I needed more. Not having an attitude mode, ATI mode, since the Phantom 4 Pro has also limited my abilities to smoothly track moving subjects like boats and cars. My question is, am I missing something with the Mavic 3 Pro Cine drone? Or maybe I need an in-person training session at DroneU. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate the question. We appreciate the question, and it's a good one. You're right. There's a lot of people that have been frustrated by that at best for a while now. I do want to make it clear that Jeff said that he's got a decade of experience. Let's just clarify that we are a PG show. So
love your accent, Jeff. Honestly,
yeah.
Also love the opportunity to answer this question for you, because someone who has so much experience as you do, a decade of experience, then I really appreciate your trust and confidence for our ability to answer this question. So first and foremost, attitude mode is only available on the DJI Mavic 3 Enterprise. It's also available on the Inspire 2, on the Inspire 3, and the M30T. But the Mavic 3 Enterprise only lets you shoot in 4K 30, and the M30T only lets you do the same thing. The cool thing about the M30T, though, is that you can record the zoom feed and the wide feed at the exact same time, which can give you some pretty sweet shots, in all honesty. But when you don't have an ND filter on the M30T, it's not really made for subject tracking. So I'll say this, on the older DJI drones, like the Mavic 2 Pro, that was the first drone in the Mavic series that did not have attitude mode. And we used to have a video out on how to hack the Mavic 2 Pro, showcasing that you plug the drone into DJI Assistant 2, you hit Command Option I on your MacBook, and it opens up the parameters. You go down to flight control settings and change, I think it was like a 3 to a 1 or a 4 to a 1. I can't remember the actual numerical values there. And then that would give you attitude mode as soon as you change the flight control switch to F for function mode. On the Mavic 3s, I know Drone Hacks has a lot of software and ability to change various parameters within the Mavic 3 series, but I haven't seen an ability, and I actually just texted the owner of Drone Hacks to ask him if he's got a way to do this, because I would love to take advantage of it myself. But if you don't have a Mavic 3 Enterprise, you don't have attitude mode in your Mavic 3.
It's crazy that the Cine doesn't have attitude mode. Like, that doesn't
I could
equate.
not agree more, because the smoothest flight motions you're going to get in attitude mode. And I'm sure that Jeff also has figured out in these newer DJI drones that DJI has completely changed the methodology of actually controlling these drones. Your yaw is prioritized over your roll, so you can't actually make these nose-in banking turns. If you make a nice banking turn, the nose is actually still facing out. DJI did this to try to make orbits easier for the average user. But
can you not manipulate those in the settings?
No, you can't.
Oh, wow.
Now, if you turn attitude mode on a Mavic 3 Enterprise, that functionality is turned off. So it is built into the flight controller to be able to do this. So until we get an answer back from Andres at Drone Hacks about turning your Mavic 3 Cine or Pro into a drone that has attitude mode, honestly, what I would recommend is that if you're not used to these drones, well, get used to them. But I would recommend, if you're doing boat tracking, car tracking, get an Inspire 2. The Inspire 3 is amazing. It's a huge camera, 8K, you got all these filming modes. Yes, it's awesome. And if you have the budget for that, great. But do you need to spend that? I mean, it's kind of like, if you're going to buy a Porsche 911, do you have to buy the brand new one, or do you buy a GT3 RS that's 5 years old and has way more horsepower? How would you answer that question, Rob?
Oh, you got to go with the GT3S.
I'll never forget, our neighbor had one in Virginia, and he let me drive it around the block. And I'll never forget how slow the Tiptronic was. It just made that natural manual shifting so much better. And because like my dad had the LFA at the time, and the shifting on the Lexus was just so much faster than the Porsche, but it felt almost animatronic, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And the real manual driving is just so much better. Anyway, I digress.
Wow.
If you're flying boats, if you're flying cars, another thing that people don't do very well, you'll notice in most of the subject tracking shots, is a lot of people they're filming from like 60, 70, 100 feet away, and your subject is just not very close. If you fly an Inspire 2 or an Inspire 3, and let's say you have the 35 millimeter or the 50 millimeter lens, you're just going to have that kind of punched in look. I did this with a Ashley Kidd video for wake surfing, and you just get a much more dynamic look. Your subject is closer, your background is much closer, it looks much better. But if you are subject tracking with a different focal length, meaning you're not flying a Mavic 3 with a 16 millimeter lens on it, you're flying a 35 mil or a 50 mil, and if you're shooting 4K 60, the X7 crops in, well, that means that the way that you fly these boats is going to feel different. The Inspire 2 does have dual operator use case, but unfortunately, Jeff, this is where I might disagree with you. I know a lot of Cine people love having dual operator stuff. If you've got someone you've worked with for a long time, you're probably getting better shots than most people. Personally, though, I'm like a one-man band. I like to have full control of the camera and the drone, et cetera, et cetera. I know that's really, really hard for some people, but that's how I prefer it. And I just think that's a personal preference.
Sure.
It's like thumbing versus pinchers, right? Me and John McBride at that fly-in proved that you can be a thumber, you can be a pincher, and you can also be a phenomenal pilot, and it does not matter which one.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, on that minor little point, it's interesting how most FPV pilots, especially the really good ones, are pinchers, to use your term, right?
Yes, yes. So many jokes, not saying any of them.
No.
Anyway,
Nope.
Yep, yeah. As a dad now too, I have a totally different mindset now.
Yeah. Anyways,
holy cow.
It's interesting. Because you're right, especially like on a big production with maybe, I don't know, if someone's flying a red or whatever, they often will have, we'll just call it a co-pilot with their own controller.
Yeah, 100%. And that's kind of the norm, especially with those bigger cameras. A lot of the movie sets that I worked on, I literally proved to the DP and the director, like the most famous DP that I worked with, he filmed Horrible Bosses 1 and 2. The show that I worked on with him was Graves. And I proved to him, I'm like, look, you can have a big drone, massive camera, but if the drone doesn't communicate with the gimbal, the action will never be totally smooth. That's what DJI mastered.
Yeah.
And so I proved that to him, and just like, that's when the other guy in Albuquerque went and did shots for them, and then I did them, and he goes, you're right, they're much smoother by you, so we hire you. And then he tried calling the FAA after me, and that started that whole debacle. That's what people do when they can't compete on merit. Anyway, moving on, it's so important to know that when the gimbal communicates with the camera, you can get better shots. And that whole philosophy that Rob just mentioned of like big drone, big camera, that's kind of gone by the wayside at this point. It's not, I've seen free fly Astros all over sets because of this same reason. The gimbal communicates with the flight controller, you know?
So you wouldn't consider that a big drone then at this point? You're talking like an M600 in the old days?
Yeah, or an Alta X.
Alta, yeah.
Yeah. You got to think, like, dude, the Astro fits in a case the size of a Phantom.
That's really?
Yeah.
The Phantom, the iconic gray.
Yes. No, okay, not that one. More like that size over there. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay, but
like
still.
the bigger Phantom, the wheeled Phantom cases we used to have.
Okay.
Yeah. So that, I think that drone, when you talk about the DJI ban, if there is one company that's going to benefit from it, you know, a lot of people are saying it's Skydio, but Skydio doesn't make consumer drones. And Skydio doesn't make video drones. They make great inspection drones, and they're very good at it. I mean, they're the best, but when it comes to video, Free Fly is just untouchable. Like, there's absolutely...
And they have a huge head start, and there's still obviously a massive need for that kind of drone.
100%. And Jeff is right. Jeff, I cannot say thank you enough for literally asking this question, because it just proves that, like, you get it. Attitude mode is absolutely necessary. Okay, word on the street is, because Kirill just told me and Trenton just told me, Skydio added attitude mode to their drones.
Really?
And I'm like, no way. I'm like, the value of that just doubled.
Interesting.
Can you imagine flying one of their birds? Ugh, that is exciting to me personally. And
which one?
The X10.
The X10? Okay.
Yeah. Which I think is badass personally. So anyway, that said, the answer to your question, Jeff, is if the Mavic 3 Enterprise is the only one that shoots attitude mode, it's unfortunate. I don't know if there's a hack out yet for Mavic 3 Cine or Pro or Classic to be able to have it. The workaround is to fly an Inspire 2. They're super cheap now. I've been wanting to talk Rob into buying a new one for us because ours is on its last legs. It has that motor color change of death on the back right corner. Who knows when it's going to fail. But I got to say, Inspire 2, just know that when you're flying boats, when you're flying cars, if you use a different lens, so it's not super wide, you're more zoomed in, it's going to take a little bit of getting used to for tracking boats and subjects again. You'll find that it's easier to lose your subject, and you'll find that the distances in which you fly are going to be a little bit different. So that said, it's also a lot of fun to have that adventure, go through that learning curve and enjoy it. And I'll be honest, I want to do an experience training next spring. We're going to do a construction experience training this fall, but next spring, I want to do one all around subject tracking, videography, commercial productions, working on set, and doing something else that we're going to keep a little secret here at Drone U until that comes. But I think we could offer some of the most incredible scenery ever for boat commercials. Think if we take our boat up to, where I want to go.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to need that Centurion. Hey, I called Ashley and I said, would you be down to come up here and allow students to make a commercial about you for a competition? And she was like, absolutely. So
That would be so fun.
yeah. So, I mean, you would have world-class talent, world-class boats. And I can even call the owner of Correct Craft and say, hey, we're doing this competition for commercials. Will you come out, judge, and then accept one and maybe offer a reward or something? So I really want to do that. Jeff, you're awesome. Thank you for your question. If you guys have a question, askdroneu.com.